In today's world, MMA is one of the most top growing, interesting sports in the world, besides pickleball. But today we will be analyzing the top 5 things you should know before A, going into your first MMA gym, or just starting in general. For those of you new to the channel, my name is Giancarlo Guccione. I've been doing MMA for about 3 years now, and I've made tremendous progress because I have gone to the right gyms or seen the right things to be able to make the right decisions in the sport. So the first thing that you should know before starting MMA is what gym you want to go to. Meaning, what martial art do you want to learn, whether it's isolating it, practicing jiu-jitsu, practicing kickboxing, practicing boxing, or jumping into a full-on MMA gym. So to give you some of my experience that I've had in MMA gyms, I started at a jiu-jitsu gym, which really helped create my foundation. And I think foundation is very important when jumping into MMA. So something I would suggest is finding a gym that offers an isolated art while also offering MMA classes further down the road or as an incentive like a MMA pro class or something. Now, that's easier said than done because jumping into a gym can be kind of scary for most people. What is a good jiu-jitsu gym? The first gym I ever signed up at was a jiu-jitsu gym, like I said, but it was very cultish. I wasn't really allowed to cross-train anywhere. There was a lot of fear put into me about cross-training. So my advice for finding your first gym is make sure you try out multiple gyms. The first shoe you put on won't always be the right fit. So it's about finding your right fit in a gym, feeling the energy in the gym, and also just like making friends at the gym. And if it's hard to do some of those things, maybe that gym's not right for you, but it is worth trying out different gyms. See, when I first started, I went to my first jiu-jitsu class. The coach was super motivational and very disciplined, and he was really cool and somebody I could look up to. So I just right away started training there. I signed up like a couple weeks after, and it was all said and done. When in reality, maybe it was meant to be because I'm where I'm at now. I don't go to that gym anymore because it was very cultish. But at the same time, I wouldn't know what was best for me because I didn't start by looking at multiple gyms. Something else to keep in mind is that you might not find something that is the most affordable thing too right away. And something I know about my gym is the head coach there was seemingly money hungry because he would always push for private lessons, which he made a ton of money off of. So make sure that you find a gym that gives you the most out of what you're paying for. Meaning, let's say I go to a jiu-jitsu gym and it only lets me go 2 to 3 times a week and I'm paying $150 a month. I do not think this is the right move. I would find a gym that lets you train as much as you want for like around that same price, $150 a month. $150 a month is pretty common in most MMA gyms, at least in the Chicagoland area, which is where I have my experience. But at least find something where for that $150 a month, you're getting the bang for your buck. So you're making sure that you're at a gym that lets you train as much as you want for a good price, has good energy, and try out multiple gyms too because there's no harm in that. Some of the best MMA fighters in the world cross-train. I train at a gym called VFS, which I wouldn't have been able to train at if I didn't have my foundation in jiu-jitsu. And some great athletes go there like Bilal Muhammad, Yair Rodriguez used to train there, Juliana Pena. But one thing that those 3 athletes have in common is that they train at multiple gyms. It is okay to train at multiple gyms, and if your coach is telling you can't, maybe it's time to start looking elsewhere in a gym. So the second thing to keep in mind when starting MMA is start at your own pace. Don't feel obligated to show up every single day because when you create that obligation for yourself, just like going to the gym to work out, it becomes kind of like you get burnout fast. So even this could be applied to anything really, is starting at a slower pace until you have found intense love for it where you want to do it every day is very helpful. So like, let's say you want to go 2 to 3 times a week. That's great. That's amazing. Even just, they say in jiu-jitsu, white belt is the hardest belt to get because nobody wants to start, nobody wants to start new. Nobody starts fresh. And a black belt is a white belt who's never given up. So just never give up. Keep going. Be consistent weekly, and then maybe that love, and if you're in a good place, your quality of life is high, you can turn that into quantity of training, so the quality of your training is better. That's a lot of quality, but you just want to make sure the quality of life is good so you can increase the quantity of training. You don't have to start going 5 days a week, every week, get burnt out, and then never want to go back again. You want to make sure that you're in a steady pace of going so it's easy for you to look forward to every week, and then you can increase that in the future. Another thing about going at your own pace is don't get discouraged by other people in the gym who are a lot better than you. I remember my first few jiu-jitsu classes, a lot of jiu-jitsu classes, I was getting my ass handed to me. And that is completely fine. That is a part of the sport. And that's what I love about MMA. Something I don't love about it is the further you go into it and the further you get better, you start implementing an ego. When I feel like when you start, there's not much ego because everybody's kicking your ass. And then the further you go down the road, you start getting a little bit of ego, which I personally have been trying to exclude from my mindset. I think ego can be a very dangerous thing, but that's a whole nother video topic. But go at your own pace. Don't be discouraged by other people in the gym who are progressing faster than you or doing better, because every individual is going to have their own breakthrough. Whether it's in jiu-jitsu and you figure out, oh, crap, I'm really good at guard, so I'm going to focus on that. Or if it's in MMA and you're like, wow, my body kick is landing all the time, I'm going to start throwing more body kicks. So you're going to have that breakthrough moment. Don't force it. Keep training, keep pushing, and go at your own pace. Thing number 3 is make training the fun part. Make friends, communicate with your partners, and really make it feel like a team. I was so excited to compete, and I'm always excited to compete, but really competition's not what it's about. The people who do the best and the people who fall in love with it the most are the people who love training, and make training have good energy. Always make the room around you fun, because if you're not having fun, then what the hell's the point of doing it? You want to go into the room of training and be happy that you're there. You don't want to always be thinking about the future. When I'm going to compete, when am I ready? Asking your coach, am I ready yet? This is a problem I had when I first started jiu-jitsu. And then I competed and I didn't do very well, but I'm happy I competed. But the point of it is, the more you're in love with the process and the more consistent you are with it, the better you end up doing in a competition scene. Because you're doing it, I'm not saying don't be competitive in the gym. I'm just saying make it a fun area. Make it like a video game. You don't need to go in there wanting to bash heads in every day. Like, you want to be able to go in there, have a fun mindset, have good energy, and be competitive at the same time. It's very important. I wish I knew this when I first started out, because when I get my butt kicked, I would be kind of sad the next day, and I'd go in and try to prove something. And when I found the most progress in my MMA world is I found that going in there with a playful mindset, trying new things, actually made me a lot better than going in there and wanting to seek revenge on the guy who hip tossed me the day before. And a little story I have for this, for my perspective, is the first time I started training at VFS, I trained against this woman named Caro, who is a professional fighter for Combate Global, and I had no clue that she was, and it was Greco-Roman wrestling, and coming from a jiu-jitsu gym where we scoot on our butts all the time, I was like, what the hell is Greco? Like, how do I do this? What is it? So we started Greco-Roman wrestling. All I knew is I couldn't go for the legs. And I got tossed around by this woman like a sack of potatoes. It was really sad. Even a sack of potatoes would have probably been harder to throw around like how I got thrown around that day. And I took it very graciously. I went home. I called my sister, and I was like, I got to wrestle a pro MMA fighter today. Here's her record, blah, 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 blah. It was an awesome experience. So, like, even when you get your butt kicked, you need to have that shift of mentality that, oh my gosh, that was fun. And I learned a lot, and there's people who are really good in this sport. So don't get butt hurt. Go in the next day wanting to learn. And once you get to that point where you are learning and you have become good, always be a student first. And number 4, I think. So when you go in there, don't be afraid to ask questions. Questions is very important in the sport, and what you don't like to see is a coach that tells you not to ask questions and to pay attention, because that means they don't want to teach. And when one teaches, two learn, because when you teach, Because I got to a point in my old jiu-jitsu gym, a little side story real quick. I got to a point in my old jiu-jitsu gym, I got my blue belt, and then they wanted me to teach. And that's not a very good idea for a blue belt to teach because you have so much to learn still. But what I knew is when I would teach the fundamentals, I would learn new things about them and new, like, physics behind how it works. And it was fun when people asked questions because I got to learn more myself because there's so much you get to learn. So maybe I see if you're asking a black belt how to do simple things, maybe they'll get mad because it's easy for them. But don't let that discourage you from asking questions. That goes along with the first thing. Make sure you're going to the right gym, good energy, people who are happy about the sport and will talk about it for hours. That is a good environment to be in. So don't be afraid to ask questions because, again, when one teaches, two learn, and you might be even shining light on a fundamental that the coach has forgotten about. So don't be afraid to ask questions. That's the beautiful part of MMA, is that it is such a deep and complex art and sport that you almost need to ask questions to really nail the fundamentals. And I'm not saying have a question every minute of every second, but just like ask a question, get your answer, and drill the absolute living hell out of the answer. So like if I'm like, how do I throw a jab? Oh, you want to twist your wrist, make sure your chin's covered, like keep your chin down. It's like, okay, now I know how to throw a jab. Let me do it 1,000 times. And then it's like, how do I properly throw a cross? It's about not wanting too much at once, but still not being afraid to ask questions, because questions is a very important part of the sport. It's good to evaluate everything that you're doing about yourself, about your techniques, because that's how you learn, is evaluate everything. Number 5, and this one I really love, is I'm going to tell a story about this one too, is have a good partner. Somebody who is going to push you, somebody who is better than you, and that will help you grow to the point that they're at and learn from. So having a good partner can mean having multiple good partners, but make sure you're not partnering up with the guy who just wants to kick your ass and then move on to the next person. You're not a woman of the night. You are going to train MMA and you are excited to learn, so you don't want to get hurt. So make sure your partner knows how to control themselves. Here is my example. So there used to be this guy in my first jiu-jitsu gym. You would roll with him, and he would like do the nastiest things because you were new and you didn't know what to do, so you just grabbed anything you could and held on to it. So he'd be like kind of a douche. He would like be rubbing his elbow into the side of your neck. When he would knee slide, he would like make sure he like really, when he does knee on belly, he puts his knee on your chest and pulls your head up. And it's just like he basically was just there to torture you because something that's happening outside of the gym, or don't let any of that affect you. But I'm telling this story to say this. After I was like able to say no to training with him for a little bit, not because I was scared of what he was going to do, just because I knew what I was in for when I agreed to train with him. I was training with people that were going to help me more than put me down, and somebody I can learn from who is just as good but more technical than him. And after 4 months of learning and doing good technique, I rolled with that same blue belt as a white belt with 4 stripes, and I was able to sweep him a lot, get the best of him, and really win the roll. And I know I'm not like keeping a record of how many rolls I'm winning, but it felt really good to put somebody in their place technically rather than just going and seeking revenge every night for that time that he dug his elbow into my neck when he mounted me. I just said that to say this, like, good partners will move you forward more than guys who are just complete assholes to you. But again, it's competitive. This is the sport you're in. So make sure, even if you have a good partner, you're not over there picking your ears together. Make sure that you are both in love with the sport, communicating, still competitive with each other, teaching each other. It's super important that you have a good partner in any martial art that you do. It makes it more fun, keeps you more disciplined, and all in all is just a win-win for both of you guys, because if you are really good, like let's say you're a black belt and there's a blue belt and you see potential in them, it's good to teach people in your gym and the people you surround yourself in, because then they get better, and in turn of them getting better, you get better. It's just like the way MMA works. So you want to be very open-minded, keep a good partner, And yeah, I think that's very important too. So just to recap the 5 things that we learned today. Number 1, find a good gym. And I kind of forgot the rest because I don't have anything written down, and this is just off the top of my head. But anyways, just really take to heart what I said in this video, because this is stuff I wish I knew when I first started MMA, and it's very valuable. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to make more of this type of content from now on, more just mainly towards MMA in general. But if you enjoyed watching, just comment down below what your first experience was. I'm not asking anybody to subscribe or like, and I mean, you can if you want. I'm not saying don't, but yeah, just comment down below your experiences, what you think about this video, and thank you guys for watching. Peace out.